Your hosts are Jared and Jason, and you have arrived at the finale of the after party. The crown winner of last week is Montana Kid and Hollywood Isn't History, both financially gifting 25 US dollars. God bless you both. Thank you so very much, and congratulations. In second place, we have all financially gifting $20 each. JK 160, 4-0, No White Guilt Clips, and Douglas. Thank you all so very much for those gifts, and congratulations to you all as well. You may financially gift on Entropy, which I'll have running in a moment, and also over on Cash App. If you feel so inclined, I will also be keeping an eye on Odyssey. Now, today is a bittersweet day because this is Jared and my last time hosting TAP together. And as always, it is my distinct honor and great pleasure to pass this over one more time to Jared George so that he can do the honors and take us into the conversation.
Well, if any of you have been listening and watching very closely since 2018, we have threaded in hidden messages all along that the last show would be September 23rd, 2022. We will give 3 times the amount of the sum total of every super chat donation we have received in the last 4.5 years. If there's a person out there that could figure out that riddle.
Yeah, actually,
or yes, go ahead.
I was just going to say, everybody's been talking all over the internet about something unnamed that's horrible is going to happen on the 24th, but they just got it a day wrong. It's the 23rd that something bad was going to happen. But please finish your thought, brother.
Is there really something going around saying
yes
that it's supposed to happen the 24th?
Yes.
Is that more from... So we're already getting off course and people are like, what are they talking about? Is this more... I have no idea what that refers to. Is this more from the angle of political insider conspiracy type stuff, or is it more from the angle of intuitive astrology, metaphysics type stuff?
Well, actually, I think there's politics and then claims about science. So a claim that there was going to be a solar flare, and which, of course, our models can predict about a month in advance. And there isn't one predicted as far as I know. But then there is a whole slew of claims about different things that could happen. So,
you know what? It seems to be perpetually so, though. Over the last few years, we've seen stuff like that. It's just a way to keep people... I don't know, distracted, on their toes. But yes, everyone, the real reason is that, of course, we have finally signed all the paperwork for the castle in the Swiss Alps. So we will be moving there and rebranding the show. The show will continue simply as Laughter Party. It's not that different in French. It's I kind of wished it was a little different when I looked it up. But yeah, there it is. Are people going to hold our feet over the fire if we're like, we told you that this was a finale and we were lying. We have something else going on. No, we should come clean. Yes, this really is, ladies and gentlemen, this really is the last episode of the after party in all due seriousness. And Jason and I had, it was a topic that was broached prior to this, but Jason and I had a very amazing, monumental conversation, private conversation, phone call on Monday night a few days ago, beginning of this week. And I think we both hope to share the spirit of that. And I know I'm just saying that because I know Jason also expressed the same as public, as appropriate on a public forum, because it hit all the marks of what this should be, and the mutual respect and love and all the good stuff. Nothing weird going on, nothing untoward. We'll talk about all kinds of things. We're going to celebrate some of the history of the show and milestones today for anyone who's been with us, whether you've been with us a little while or you've been with us for much longer. But as these things go, it's a swirl of different reasons and circumstances, and it's not quite so easy to always sum up. And it took a long time to come to these decisions, and not lightly. But basically, to sum it up as best I can, I think the two main things, the two main headings, are that after we were speaking, and I came to Jason with some thoughts recently, and I've been feeling this for a while. As I said, it's not something to do lightly or come quickly. It comes over observations from over the past year, actually. Basically, I felt from my end that the main thrusts of why people are here, I know people enjoy the after party, and we appreciate that, but the vast majority of people that are here are being very well completely served by the shows Jason does, all the projects that people have been self-starters around that have grown out of that organically and around that in Jason's website. And then as I increasingly returned to music, something I was doing before I did the Great Order website and stepped out as a video commentator, I put that down because, in those heady days of the mid last decade, so many of us were listening to shows and reading things, and it just seemed like I wanted to do something. I didn't know quite what that would be, and I left myself open, having goals and direction, but simultaneously leaving myself open. Part of that openness led me to meeting Jason and us just very naturally doing this show together, which we may talk about because it came up. We never really planned to do a show together; it just kind of fell into place. But in returning to music and sinking back into that as my true home, my true nature, the true way that my mind works, the energy for me around commentary, even in a looser form of interviewing people, it's still appearing on a live stream is more rhetorical type of speaking and that kind of thing, and less the poetic artistic thing. It just slipped away from me a little bit more. I mean, I've always been a communicator, and it's not like I don't know how to form sentences anymore, hopefully. But as I've relaxed back into my true home, my true nature, in the more mythopoetic, being a songwriter and musician, the energy around being a commentator was waning for me. And it came to a point where I didn't want to feel like I was forcing it. And I still enjoyed, up to the very last show that we've done with a guest, which I guess was Little Apostate a couple of weeks ago. So now she has a little place in tap history, I suppose, as the final guest. I enjoyed it. Every time we got off air, I was always happy I did the show. Always got a lot out of speaking with Jason, speaking with our guests, talking with the chat, the community. As Jason and I said many times in many different ways all throughout the years, but especially in this private conversation I referred to on Monday when we decided to do this and set tonight's show as the finale, always it's been this mutual inspiration kind of thing, a wheel of inspiration, knowing that we've helped some people along the way, but it's always a two-way street. Learning and growing so much through doing it is nothing but gratitude and love. But it's just the right thing at the right time. It's not, my main role isn't commentary, and I know people are being served by what Jason does, and that's the broad strokes of it, I suppose.
Yeah, and a lot of people they're speaking up already, and folks, please, remember to tag me as No White Guilt to get my attention, so it'll be easier for me to find your comment. But we have Amma saying, wishing Jared the best on his journey. Persona says, my first stream is the final after party stream. How about that? Well, stick around because we're going to talk about a lot of the things that have gone on since we've been doing back in. Well, can anybody, Jared, did you say the date of the first? If you didn't,
I didn't.
Okay.
I don't know if I mentioned the month or not, but
I think you mentioned the month, but the date might not. So does anybody remember, without looking, the date of the very first after party? It wasn't named that then.
Right.
We hadn't given it the name yet.
I was about to say, it's kind of a trick question.
Yeah.
Because in retrospect, we decided to just call it the first after party. But it's going back a ways. So I don't know how many people listening right now tonight in the latter part of 2022 were there back then. But yeah, basically, the first few shows, it was Jason and I had been in touch, and I said, maybe I'll interview you. He said, maybe I'll interview you. And it ended up being, we did it on his channel. He interviewed me. We had such a great conversation. There had to be a part 2. We did it the very next week. Then he interviewed someone else who I had been friends with or known a tiny bit through internet, being on his show as well. And then we all got together. Then we had some guests, and then it just started to grow. And that other gentleman was a great guy, not very nice person, but Jason and I were saying it's funny how people sometimes come into your life for like a very, very short time. And I guess that he was a bit of a catalyst, because once Jason and I were getting into a rhythm, and it might have been the 3 of us as a host, he just decided that it wasn't for him. Maybe he had other pursuits. And Jason and I quickly made some connections elsewhere, some new connections. Of course, Jason had a lot of connections from his prior work, as a lot of you know, long before the internet scene and the whole live streaming thing. And it just kind of took off. And before we knew it, as I said, a month or 2 went by, and it was already felt like a thing. And I remember, Jason, you and I having a lot of private conversations at that time too, getting to know each other and just really enjoying it. It wasn't, those private conversations weren't this like wargaming of how we're going to have this live stream show and what we want to do with it. It was more, we were just getting to know each other as friends, having a lot of laughs. And I have a lot of good memories of that. But yeah, that, I don't know if anyone knows, but yeah, it didn't like come out the gate as the after party. It was just like a amorphous thing for the first few weeks, and then it settled into that. And then we just retroactively, as I said, decided that that very first time we were together, where technically Jason interviewed me on his channel, we just de facto called that the first after party. So to Jason's question, after that little history lesson, we'll see if anyone in the chat does know when that first after party was aired.
Clips is very close. No, I go Clips is very close.
What did he say?
He said the 6th of February.
In the fateful year of
2018.
2018, yes.
So very close.
Very close. Very close. We'll see if anyone could beat him. We should have thought of prizes. You could stay 6 nights at no charge in the aforementioned castle we just purchased in the Swiss Alps.
Of course. Yeah, it really was. I'll just echo what you said for everybody, that Jared and I had, unbeknownst to each other, started channels and exploring. And of course, I was spreading the Go Free method, and came across Jared, and he and I began talking. He wanted to interview me. I wanted to interview him. Just like he said, we finally resolved that I would have him over. We would go through a series that he had worked on, and we talked about that. And that essentially, that synergy that we had and the interest that we engendered was really the catalyst, and was indeed the show that is the after party. And so it wasn't like we had changed something to become. We just continued. As we had in those early discussions, and so we just tacked the name on. And I think I have. Let's see here. I do have we have some questions for those who have been Tap fans over the years to see if they can figure it out. We haven't had anybody come in yet with the precise date of the very first interview that we did, but No White Go Clips is almost on the money with that.
He's very warm.
He's very warm. Well, and while you all ponder that without cheating, I will toss out the other one. And Jared just mentioned another gentleman, and it was on the 4th episode of the after party that another gentleman joined us, as a co-host. And he had some great energy, and he wasn't there long though. Just a handful of episodes with us, and mysteriously disappeared. And I mean that literally. He disappeared, and all of our efforts to find him and find out if he was okay were to no avail. And the question is, can anybody remember his name?
That's a deep cut.
Yes.
I mean that in the musical sense. That might be, I don't know if everyone knows that sense, but back when records were called cuts, it's like not a single. It's like a hidden gem on an album that only the real fans know. Yeah. I don't mean it's a deep cut like a wound. No bad blood. And we hope in some infinitesimal chance that if that gentleman hears this now or in the future, Jason and I always think of him fondly and wish him nothing but the best.
We have, indeed. We've talked about him several times. Whoa, Dainty Brighton is here.
That's a throwback. Wow. Hello, Dainty. I hope you're doing well.
Thank you. She named him. She got it right. Rad Russ. Oh yeah. My gosh, Dainty, great to see you. And that's bragging rights. We're not,
legendary.
We're not giving away. Wow. We don't have trips to the Alps or anything, but we do have bragging rights. And Dainty Brighton, she has the bragging rights for remembering the handful of episodes at the all the way back in 2018.
Yeah. We thought it might be a three-man show, a panel show.
Yes.
With Rad Russ. He had some very interesting perspectives, had studied natural medicine, and he was actually Canadian, so it would have been a true North American show.
Yeah.
So again, we have fond memories. It's funny, even it goes to show, even with someone could come in here live very, very shortly, but always be aware of the energy you're giving out. Always try to show up, because even a quick encounter with someone can leave an impression. He was a great guy, very smart, and we enjoyed speaking to him. And again, if somehow in some way this ever got back to him, we wish you nothing but the best. And we always think fondly of you. And just for whatever reason, you had to go do other things. But Jason and I that energy was catalyzed. And Jason, you said it perfectly before, where I guess ultimately it was appropriate, where the show began with the two of us. The whole thing was sparked by the instant rapport and chemistry that we had. Yeah. And that really was and has remained throughout the years, and the different iterations of the show. Not that the structure of the show has changed, but obviously after 4.5 years, things going on in the world, us doing different things, changing and growing as individuals, there's different eras of the show. I can think back to certain years or certain parts of certain years, and it's almost like seasons, even though they're not formally seasons. It's not like we ever really took a break. There's still certain eras, I think, back that just have a certain tenor or certain energy or certain feel, as opposed to others. It feels like the after party's been through a few phases, but the core of it has always been the exploration we have, and then that interesting mix, like anything, of personalities, where there's these contrasts, of course, but there's also certain things. I think there's a little bit of Jason and me and a little bit of me and Jason, and it's an interesting compliment, as many other people have noted, but it worked, and we're very proud and happy of everything that's transpired.
Yeah, without question. And I want to just underscore again, Jared and I have talked about on and off about Russ over the years, and wondering what he's doing and what he's up to. And we at least were able to find out a couple of years later that he was still out there, and we don't know exactly what he's up to, but he is out there, and we do wish him the best, and we hope that maybe he'll come around, maybe see these. Maybe see this particular episode and have some good feelings, some good memories about those days. So that was that, folks. And folks, I want to ask everybody, if you'll take a look at my avatar here.
Oh, yes.
Can anybody figure out, was this if from the first third, second third, or the final third have I used this avatar for the after party. Whoever types it in first third, second third, or the final third. Franklin got it. Franklin's got bragging rights. It is the classic avatar.
And not only that, I'll tack on this as a follow-on to that question. What is the significance of that avatar? Or so Franklin knows that was in the first era of the show. There's a little more to it than that. What was the significance of that avatar? Or what was going on with that? What's the full story with that, if anyone knows? I know it's kind of a little bit of a more vague question, but I don't know if I can phrase it more specifically without giving something away. But there's a little more. There's a little more to the story.
Well, folks are jumping in with some thoughts, it looks like.
We'll let that hang there for a minute. And then we didn't do an official tally, but I'm sure there are people here, and we are in contact with them too. So you could get back to Oliver of Semiagog, that I believe he does have the distinction of being the guest who has been on the most. He's someone who's been on an arc and has gone through a lot of, public intellectual journey. And we first had him on tap within the first few months. So as we just said, we started, well, we didn't get the date yet, but early 2018. And he was on in June of 2018 was his first appearance. And, to his credit, he was stretching himself out and speaking to people who were at that time, a little outside of what he would typically talk about and what was in his main wheelhouse. And there was, again, with Oliver, an instant mutual respect, instant rapport. And he has been on himself solo and with other guests on panels many times since, and has been a big friend of the show. So we do give a tip to Oliver of Semiagog as well for that distinction of being, I think, our most consistent and regular guest.
Yeah,
there are a few others that have been on multiple times, of course.
Well, that first year, 2018, we had on quite a few. I just, as I looked at, I was trying to count up the number of episodes, which I believe are roughly 214 episodes.
Oh, wow.
And we are just shy of course, a 5-year anniversary. So that's a long time to do to do an internet show.
But we do have to figure that out. There should be a calculator somewhere. There must be a gag website with what that relates to in internet years. Like if we were doing a TV show back in the 60s or 70s, like Johnny Carson, this would probably be like 15 years on television.
Yeah, exactly. It would be like Johnny Carson epic.
We should wear a plaid sport coat like he would sometimes rock. Old Johnny.
Oh, yeah. He was awesome. Well, let's see what else we have here. Another question. Let's see. What was the show? Can anybody remember the date of the show? That was the first one that when I opened the show, I called it the After Party.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good bit
That's going to be a tough one.
That's a good bit of trivia. Yeah.
Bragging rights are up, folks.
So no one has responded to the second part to your avatar question, your sunglasses avatar question.
No, it doesn't look like I didn't see anybody.
What the significance of that was. So let me give you a little more of a hint. So think about this. It was so it was in the first year. So it isn't during the first year. I was on camera. It's kind of the opposite of what it's been this year.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm kind of leading you into it now, folks. What is the significance of the sunglasses avatar? Maybe, Jason, you could put it back on screen for a moment, sir.
Yeah,
if you
can. There we go.
Would be so inclined.
Yes. There we go. Back up for everybody to see.
It's taking me back. I'm having flashbacks to the first year. A very an amazing assortment of guests too, right from the get-go. I mean,
oh, really was. I mean, I was looking at some of the names. We had Dancing Dove the first year, Greg Johnson, JF Garapi, Elect as well, the French woman.
Yes. Was she in? Oh yeah, she was in 2018. Wow.
Yeah.
With JF. Yeah. Elect. She. People who were in different, maybe related, but different spheres, and a lot of outreach, and a lot of people responded. There's just this momentum that happened very quickly.
Yeah.
As I said, Oliver, fits into that as well. We had people speaking about, you might have more activist types, political commentary types. By that summer of 2018, again, only a few months on air, we did the British special, and Millennial Woes was on. Laura Towler, there's a panel of several people, Morgoth, and then this technically wasn't in the first year, but that following summer, by 2019, another fixture showed up, Laura Lee, of course, who's been on many times since, and speaks so deeply about her extremely in-depth work on Lord of the Rings, the movies, as kind of analyzing them the way you would a dream. The rich visuals in the Peter Jackson trilogy as a metamyth for the West, reflecting on a lot of things going on, relating it to her deep knowledge of symbols as well. And she literally is someone who can analyze dreams, because I've spoken about that with her privately, but she applies that kind of intuitiveness and depth to the Lord of the Rings. And so, she's been on for several shows. We did these deep dives into her Lord of the Rings series, but then she's also, been one of the friends of the show, been on those fun holiday multi-guest panels, or sometimes the holiday shows, I guess the best way to describe them isn't multi-guest. It's more this revolving door of guests. Like we have one person on at a time, but it's just, they have a 10 or 15-minute slot. It's just one after the other, after the other, after the other, for about 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours. And those are always a blast. We did those. Jason and I were talking a little bit before going on air tonight. Usually Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, of course, the anniversary show, which would be when, if we started in what month or what day of 2018. We're still waiting for an answer on that. But those multi-guest shows were just a blast as well.
Yeah, they really were. I enjoyed that. We just peppering through folks and everybody, and decorating the office for all of the holidays. It was marvelous. We also, a couple of the other names from the first year is Simon Harris and Jared Taylor and Lacey Lynn and Big Cat Kayla, Zurius, Aiden Paladin, all those and more, just in 2018.
Right. Yeah, there's so many. Was Jefferson Lee on the end of 2018 or the end of 2019? I guess it was the end of 18, I think.
Was it? Okay.
I was right in. I know he was on in right after Thanksgiving time, but yeah, JF had been on recently, and then we did this weird thing where we actually went on JF's show once. He did his Revolutionary Phenotype book, and we had him on in January, I believe, of 2019, and we had more to talk about, so we needed to do a part 2. So we decided that instead of just having him on another episode of TAP, we simulcast. We went on to his show. He was doing the public space at the time.
Yeah.
And we took over as hosts. He gave us hosting powers. Yep. And he turned guest. And we continued the conversation. And then we did the part 2 technically as us hosting TPS. It was a really weird thing. But we did there was just a lot of fun crossover things like that. When all that, like I said, it was, for those of you who have been around a while, so much had happened in 2015, 2016, and obviously we weren't on air quite yet then. In my personal life, I was just kind of taking a lot of it in and thinking, I have to be part of this. I have to lend my voice to this, but I don't know how. Obviously, that was a prelude to what eventually happened. But in the first year or two of the after party, 2018, 2019, there was still that internet culture. I mean, it's still there, but it has changed. And we don't, obviously, everything changes. And not looking for a sob story, but there's been a ton of censorship and in deplatforming or throttling. And unfortunately, even though the censorship was bad then, there was still more of this Wild West feel of the internet. And I know it goes in stages, because there are people that say there were years prior to that when I wasn't certainly around on the internet. And Jason, I don't think you certainly weren't hosting shows. I know you put out some videos. I don't know when you quite started putting videos out, but there are people that'll tell you, oh, I don't know, in 2014, YouTube was really wide open. We came in when YouTube was definitely doing censorship, but then there were these other streaming platforms, all streaming platforms or all video platforms that popped up. So some people would watch on YouTube and some people would watch elsewhere. And again, I know that's still going on now, but it was a little bit more of this wild, open, big tent party. And it was fun to ride the wave of the last crest of that after the wildness of like 2015 and 2016, when regardless of someone's political opinions or worldview, obviously Trump on the scene just as a figure was he excited people so much. People loved him or people hated him. And as our friend Laura Lee, who talks about symbols, would tell you, he's a source of mass projection for people, for mass the mass consciousness. So that was all going on, and we started the after party as that was still, there's still this afterglow or this crest of that wave. And that's what we were just saying. And there was like that first year and a half, there were all these like wild assortment of different guests with different perspectives, but it was great. And, Jason and I are very proud of the fact that we were able to speak to a lot of people from different walks of life came onto our show, and they also, some of them opened up. Jason, I know you wanted to say something. We both feel this way, but you were saying this before the show, so I'll hand it over to you so you can kind of complete my thought here. We'll do a little tag team co-host thing.
Well, so what exactly? Where exactly do you want to go?
No, I'm saying there's something you wanted to say about certain of the guests and their openness or comfort with being on the after party. That was something we both noticed.
We had, and you all who are faithful TAP watchers will remember that we had at least half a dozen folks.
I think it was more.
I think it was more too, but at least half a dozen who shared for their very first time right on TAP something very personal about their lives, and very relevant and very personal about their lives. And that was the sort of open
and risky to say publicly at times.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Things that were sometimes risky to say publicly. Yes. It took a lot of courage to say publicly.
Yeah, exactly. So we were able here to make folks, we presented such an open and friendly atmosphere, and it was genuine. And people were able to feel the warmth from us and from the community. And they ended up sharing for the first time. And Jared and I didn't even know that it was coming, and when this would happen, it was a surprise for us as well, and very gratifying.
Yeah,
it really was. Especially you have so many of shows, I guess, all over the internet, and interviewing people, and they can do fabulously well, but with their audience, the size of their audience, but they're not touching that depth of emotion with their guests that we've been able to very often, and that's why a lot of these folks came forward with things that were indeed risky, things they had never shared before, and it was really very gratifying.
Yeah, I mean, it was a time, that tail end I was just saying, was a time when blood sports was still happening a bit, and a lot of people wanted to make a name by pitting people against each other, bringing out the worst in people.
Mm-hmm.
And we took an approach, the polar opposite approach of, wanting to make people feel warm and comfortable. And it's exactly to Jason's point, what he just said. We saw before our eyes these spontaneous moments where people would open up, and we were both really touched by that when that would happen. And I will say, pretty much everyone that's been on the show has remained on good terms with us or had good things to say. And that's something that we'll both, Jason and I know we could take away from this, and no one could take that away from us.
No, they can't.
We're both very happy about that, and proud, if I may say, of that.
Yeah, very deeply proud about that. We have a Mestizo Carf is in over on the question widget on Entropy. He had a thought that he shared. He said, "I remember being introduced to Jared when he and Dr. Slattery were co-hosts with Mark and Jason on Tutar."
And that's going back.
It's a very interesting intersection there of how the TAP came together, and then suddenly we were thrust into a much larger show with Mark over there and Dr. Slattery. And then Jared was indeed a guest host there for quite some time as well.
Yeah, for several months. And then I came back for a few odd shows after.
Yeah. So that's a great memory, Mestizo Carf, to draw up. But we're going to, right now I have to interrupt to say that the great and gallant No White Guilt Clips has financially gifted, ladies and gentlemen, 07's Ragas emojis, $100. The
Thank
champ
you very much.
Yeah, $100. He says the after party will go down in history as the show that united white sympathetic people from across the globe and created the best community in the world. Thank you for the all the time and effort you put into TAP, and thank you for the knowledge, camaraderie, and many happy memories you have given me over the past 3.5 years since I came to be with you. God, thank you so much. This is a great guy.
That is a beautiful tribute. Those are really some powerful words. Thank you very much.
What a wonderful guy. And
honestly, but yeah, those words are, I mean, the gift is very generous, but what's really more powerful is that sentiment. Thank you very much.
Precisely. And we have right there also on the donations tab on Entropy, folks, and URL is in the description below. The wonderful woman who is with us for so long, so busy, so active early on, and then for some time, the great Dainty Brighton, financially gifting $5, and she says, "Thank you for everything," and a little emoji heart. Well, thank you, sister, and it's wonderful to see you again.
Yeah, it is, Dainty. Thank you. Dainty was a moderator for quite some time.
Yeah.
And we appreciate her and all the moderators. A tip of the hat. That is a part of what makes a live stream work. And we've had many over the years. It's difficult work, and sometimes it might seem like, although not with us, we try. I know Jason names people all the time, but it can seem sometimes like thankless work. But it's an important part of how live streams work, and our tap hats off to all of you. Top hat. Well, we have tap hats.
We have tap hats. Yeah, and you're talking about No White Guilt Clips comment there and uniting folks in the white sympathetic sphere around the world. We had, as that first year, a guest by the name of Laura Towler, who was unknown, didn't have her big channel, hadn't met Sam yet.
She didn't even have a YouTube channel at the time, right?
Yes.
Right. How did we know her from then? She was doing things.
Probably through Tutar.
Yeah, she had a name for herself, I guess, with a Twitter account. I feel like I must be forgetting something. I mean, when she came on for the first time on that British panel in July of 2018, she was just about to start her YouTube channel. But she was known for something, maybe just for being a guest. Maybe she was one of those people. I could be wrong, so don't take this as official record stuff. But tell me if this sounds right, Jason. She might have been the kind of person who was doing the show circuit, but didn't have her own channel yet. Like would be a guest and comment, and then decided to do her own editorial videos a little later on.
Yes.
It might have been
that. Sounds right. Yeah.
I mean, because obviously she agreed to be a panelist on our show, so she had to be. It wasn't the first time she ever did a live stream. Although,
right.
There are people we've had who it was either their first time or they rarely do live streams. Like Ilenia from Italy has been on our show a couple times.
Yes.
And she was very well known for running a couple of very popular Facebook pages.
Yep.
The original one, Nordic Beauty, got shut down but came back, and there was also another kind of Mediterranean beauty, but celebrating different European aesthetics. And let's face it, beautiful European women, which Jason and I certainly did not have a problem with. And she's very active. She's also involved in a community in Italy that is reviving more of the knowledge about ancient Roman religions and spirituality. So, an very active, very interesting person, speaks several languages, but wasn't someone who was primarily known for video content, wasn't a YouTube person. It wasn't going on live streams, didn't have her own channel. That's one person that comes to mind, Jason. I don't know if there are any others you can think of, but who, again, we feel very grateful that we've been able to have people put their trust in us to interview them, which is it's a hell of a thing for anybody, but especially when you have thrown out your hat into the mix and waded into what just so happens to be the most taboo thing in the culture and society you live in, and can have some dangers and risks that come with it. But for people to put their trust in us like that, again, we are forever grateful. We'll always remember it. Always will be better men for it because of what we've learned along the way and the generosity we've been shown.
Yeah, without question. And I want to read some of the comments just in the live chat. Remember, folks, if you want me to see what you're saying, please tag me. It's No White Gill. Earlier on, I got some compliments on my sartorial excellence from Naderific and Carlisle and Fernald. Thank you all for that. We had Fit and Healthy at Any Age saying, congrats on a great run. Thank you so much for that. Bass Guitarist is with us, and he says, very sad to see this era end. I predict you guys will pull a motley crew and come back shortly after your farewell tour.
I love how Bass Guitarist is relating it to old, like 70s and 80s. Well, I guess they're really 80s. I was thinking of Kiss for some reason, I think they've like gone and come back. I don't know. But yeah, I'm dragging this out too long, but it's just like Bass Guitarist. Hello, Bass Guitarist.
Yeah.
To make that comparison, that's very funny. Yeah, we'll do we said we wouldn't get back together tour next year.
Nulla says hail, and Reptile says so many wonderful folks have been brought together here. So true. Thank you for that, mentioning that, brother. And we have over here, I know we got some more trivia questions because we don't have the first show. Nobody has come up with the date for the very first show.
Not the exact date. We're still waiting.
Nobody has come up with the date for the first show that I used the after party in the title while I was talking.
We still have that one. Yeah, that's two separate things.
And
the significance of your avatar during the first year. We wanted to know if anyone knew the full story there.
Yes.
Not the significance as in like why Jason chose that certain picture, as in there's a hidden meaning in the picture. Not that, but just what the full story was about using that avatar and its significance and when it eventually changed. There's another hint. When that status eventually changed and he didn't use the avatar anymore. If anyone can tell us a little more about that.
Nordic Iron says, I believe that tap was my first venture into the white positive sphere. The YouTube algorithm, for once, worked and directed me to some great content that truly has changed my life. Thank you so much for writing that, Nordic Iron.
Thank you. I wonder what he was watching prior, like what the algorithm suggested from what he was watching to jump in the tap. Maybe it was random, like Care Bear videos.
JK160 says, tap set the standard for how to properly behave and act while advocating for our people. Thank you for that. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah. That was one of the goals. So thank you. Again, not that we had some master plan, but we still, I think, knew each other well enough to know that that was definitely the intention.
Precisely. We have over on Entropy, JK160 financially gifting with a comment, financially gifting $40 some 07s and raucous emojis for that champion. Thank you so much, brother. And he writes with it, congratulations to Tap for spreading white well-being for 4+ years to unknown amounts of people. Amazing job. Well, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
And another raucous emojis and 07s for the great Mrs. Jess Horst, who just showed up with $25. 3 white heart emojis. She says, thank you, dear lady. She says, it was great. And I wish you the best of luck for every endeavor. Promethean blessings always. Well, Promethean blessings to you, Mrs. Jess Horst.
Thank you, Mrs. Horst. Very long time friend of the show, huge supporter. You've been so generous with your time and thoughts and your financial gifts.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all so much. And thank you all for celebrating. And we have over, hey, you all know him well. You know the name well. The great DB Cooper over there on the Cash App. He's financially gifting $5. God bless you, brother. Great to see you. And he says with those $5, I love the Going Free family. Well, we love you, man. God bless you and your whole family.
Was DB Cooper one of the very first donators or commenters?
You go back that far, DB? I think he might.
DB Cooper goes back a long way. DB, then we're looking at you to answer those questions about the early days of TAP, these trivia questions that we have posed.
Yep, we got some trivia questions. We got some more stories, folks. Let's see. What else do we have here? Let's see. We had.
I do remember a funny story. I wanted to say anyway. I mentioned Laura Lee before. There's so many great. The guests, all the episodes we've done are always interesting. But through TAP, some people have remained in contact, become friends. Another person for me is John Bruce Leonard. And his initials, he goes by JBL a lot, and he'll write that under his little video box, like you see our names, like my name or Jason's site in this case right now. Like he'll just write JBL. For anyone that knows, JBL is a famous brand of speakers and audio equipment. Yeah. First time he was on, he has JBL down there, and the first 10 or 15 minutes of the show, we had audio issues that we weren't even aware of until a little bit after the fact. So we're sitting there talking, and there's silence. And the people are not hearing it. And meanwhile, we had a few comments like, that's ironic, JBL, and the audio is not working. but Jason, I don't know if you were about to say something else. I don't want to get you off course, but I want to make sure we also, if you were about to say something, please finish that thought first. But I want to make sure we get to some of the shenanigans too, because we have had some pranks that we've pulled over the years as well. And I know you wanted to talk about that.
Yes, no, but please go ahead with what you were going to say.
No, that is what I was going to say.
Oh,
It looked like you were going to say something, and I didn't know if this was different, but I just want to make sure if it is different, do that first. But let's not forget the pranks either.
Oh, we don't want to forget the pranks. We did, folks. Does anybody remember the great prank? The really great prank that we pulled, the first great prank. We'll see if any of the.
Oh, so you're not even going to give much info at first, okay?
We'll just see. We'll just see if anybody. Vague. Oh, Franklin's got it. Franklin's got it already. April Fool's joke.
April Fool's 2019. So right after the first
Heiling
year,
too.
Oh, another two people got it.
Yeah.
Now, what was the prank? So we know it was April Fool's Day of 2019. So a little over a year in, nobody still has gotten the exact date of the first show or the first time we used the term the after party, by the way. Still waiting for that. But, okay, so now we're a little more than a year in. It's April Fool's Day 2019. And we discussed this together, but I do have to give credit where credit is due. Jason did start the ball rolling on this. He said to me, Jared, I want to do something on April Fool's, and he had a basic premise. Does anyone, before we go on and say anything more, we'll see if anyone could type in what the nature of that April Fool's prank was. So we did a show with Philosophicat. She's been on several times as well. Yeah. And because we knew her, we prepped her. So we did a regular episode, but at the end, she knew what was going to happen. And, well, we'll see if anyone remembers. If not, we'll eventually tell you the story.
Oh, well, look, Clips and Fernal. The great Fernal and the great Clips. Clips saying Jason and Jared pretended to be brothers, and Fernal saying Jason and Jared pretended camera is rolling candidly.
Yeah, Fornell got more the essence of it. I think the brother thing was more of a side joke, but it was. Well, why don't you explain it, Jason? It was, like I said, you were the one that started the idea.
Well, we wanted to do something that we thought would be really amusing, and it ended up being hilarious, at least for us. I don't know how many people watching.
We laughed. We thought it was great. Yeah, we don't know about you.
It was uproarious for us. So we had Philosophicat on, and so who said that? I think a couple of people have pointed out that Philosophicat was on. Yes, indeed. And so it was just a regular interview with her. And she actually, Jared, do you remember that she threw in a joke of her own?
I'm not quite sure.
Yes. Does anybody now? That's big bragging rights. Does anybody remember Philosophica's joke? Because that's big.
It was something. Well, you did ask me, so I do have a right to answer.
Yes.
I can't remember the essence of it, but I'll start us off by saying, I thought that we had prompted her to do this, but did it have something to do with how she exited the show?
Yes.
But I thought we gave her directions on how to exit the show to set up our prank.
We did give her directions, but she came up with the thing she was going to say.
She threw in her own twist. Okay.
Yes.
I don't quite remember. You're even stumping me. And
God.
I have a pretty good tap memory.
Huge bragging rights to Carlisle. Got it. She said, I think that's the first one. I don't see anybody else saying. Carlisle saying she said she heard her baby crying. Yes, that was it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I gotcha. She wanted to have people asking questions about that. I forgot that.
That was hilarious that she decided to toss that in there, and of course that was targeting everybody who just berates her for not already having so many children or something. So yeah, she wanted to throw that in. We thought it was great. The whole idea was that we were going to close the tap episode like normal, but the camera was still running. And so then we three started just having a leisurely conversation, and she saying that she would not be able to keep a straight face very long, wouldn't be able to stay long. And with us. And so she ended up exiting quite quickly by saying that she could hear the baby waking up, I think from the nap, maybe crying it was. And then Jared and I continued talking, and the chat, just all champions, wonderful people, went crazy telling us it's still alive. Don't say anything. Don't say anymore. You got to shut it down. And I could see the chat, and I was like biting my tongue. I had to turn away from it.
I could not look at the screen and look at you, or I would have lost it. And I couldn't read the chat either. We stayed on the phone an hour afterwards, and we were going over the chat, and the people were like, "You're still on the air. Make sure you don't say anything crazy." Not that we do say anything differently off the air, but of course it was a test of people watching, or even, who knows, detractors wanting to see if we misstep. So what we decided to do was, so we're ignoring that, and then we start to do benign but bizarre things. So, Jason, tell everyone what you were doing. You were practicing something. I think this was your original idea. This was part of the original idea you pitched to me.
Yeah, well, and that was part of the really just the weird thing too, was that we were going to remain on camera and just chatting like this. It was
like a good 10 minutes, right?
Oh yeah, this is like what normally happens. And so I broke out the juggling balls to practice.
I'm gonna practice my juggling. As if it's a normal thing when we're talking after the show, decompressing, kind of going over how we thought about the show. So as we're doing this, I'm just going to practice juggling. Not very good, not very well, I might add. Meanwhile, we had an idea of what we wanted to do, but we didn't practice this. It was all improvised. It was all in the moment. I get out this old book. I like, what's the weirdest thing that I have? And I look at my bookshelf and I'm like, this will do. I have this old book on instant self-hypnosis. So as Jason's practicing juggling and dropping the balls and not even knowing what he's really doing, I put my feet up, and it's just like a casual thing. Like, we just sometimes hang out on video calls and just do this with each other, shoot the bull. And as he's practicing juggling, I'm reading him passages from this book about instant self-hypnosis. I'm like, what do you think of this, Jason? This really works. Wait, listen to what he says here. And I mean, we came close, but neither one of us lost it, I have to say. No. I'm proud of that.
No,
when we turned the camera off, I couldn't stop laughing. And then when we looked over the chats and people freaking out, warning us that we were still on the air, it was worth everything. It was exactly what we wanted.
Yeah, and we the whole time, like, Jared would read something very bizarre from the self-hypnosis, and then I would say, "Yeah, that sounds real. That sounds legitimate." Like, perfectly straight.
Oh, you right. Because that was your go-to. Because if anything, if this was like on air, you'd probably want to explore it a little bit more and bring your rational brain. But you're like, no, that sounds legit. But then the premise, there's another layer to this. Tell them what happened. And I don't know if this was your original idea, but eventually this became the running gag, and it spilled over in other things too, as we'll get to. But tell them about the significance of why you were dropping the juggling balls. And this does get a little bit to, I know Fornall nailed a little bit more the essence of what the prank was, but Franklin's not entirely wrong. Franklin was the one who said the brother thing, right?
I think so.
Because it did grow out of this. So Franklin, it is still a secondary thing. I hope you're still listening, because I don't want you to feel like I brushed off what you were saying. Franklin is still correct in a way as well, because it kind of grew out of this, what we're about to say. But tell them why the juggling and dropping the juggling balls was significant, how it played into the prank.
Well, the some in the live chat are already, they're keen to it already. That and they're writing in the live chat that yeah, I would drop the balls, and then Jared would raise his head and look up at his ceiling because the balls dropping on my floor would resound down through his ceiling.
And at first, I don't think, if I remember correctly, I didn't say anything. And then after the first few, I was like, "Do you want me to just come up there? Like we could go get a coffee."
Yep. Pete's Coffee.
Yeah. So it became this thing where we like live in the same apartment building, and we're vertical neighbors. You know, Jason lives in the apartment above me, and then I guess from there, I don't know if it was said right there. We have to check because I don't want to. Like I said, if Franklin is right, I want to give him his due course. Was it right then and there? Was it afterwards that we kind of tacked on to that because we live in the same building? We just were like, oh yeah, by the way, we're brothers as well.
Yes, I think we just tagged it on. Yeah, we
yes,
because it was about asking.
I'll tell you why, Aunt Barbara.
That's it.
Yeah, so Franklin is 100% right because we're like, yeah, what do you? Oh, are we going to Aunt Barbara's for her birthday party this weekend or something to that effect?
Yes.
Something implying that we're brothers. Exactly.
Yes.
Which of course we are.
Of course. Why?
Keep them guessing.
Keep them guessing. Yeah, we had folks.
There's still people, by the way. There were. This is the power of that prank in 2019. There were still people in this year, 2022, saying things in the super chat, thinking that we're brothers.
Yep.
Which we are.
Which we are. So they're totally right. But that number has decreased, which is strange because we totally are. Yeah, that was so much fun. It was hilarious watching the comments come in, and some that were just direct messages asking, was that real? People were totally there were some folks that were absolutely convinced that we were hinting at what was really real, that we were vertical neighbors and brothers, and we hinted at it to lead people astray and make them think it's just a joke that we're vertical neighbors and really brothers, because we actually are vertical neighbors and really brothers.
There is a lesson there, everybody, about letting conspiracies get out of hand. Because we literally had people thinking like, well, it's like revelation of the method, as if we're the Illuminati. Like they joke about being brothers to throw people off the trail, because they really are brothers.
Yes.
Get it, man?
Get it? It's deep.
This is esoteric TAPism.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, the next follow-up trivia question is, what did that elaborate prank that we just took all that time to explain? I hope we didn't bore you and it's like over-explaining a joke. You had to be there to really get it. But what did that prank lead into 2 years later? Another prank that kind of piggybacked from that concept of being vertical neighbors.
Yes.
That wasn't as much. It was more of like a special event. It wasn't completely a prank. It started with a little bit of humor, but it wasn't a tried and true prank the way that one was. It wasn't elaborate the way that one was, but it did play into something on a special, different kind of TAP episode.
Well, while we give folks the opportunity to answer that one, I'll remind you, Jared, that we also had another spiritual person, Haythrun. Do you remember her?
Yes. It might have been. I know there were a few pronunciations. It might have been Haythrun, because I think I remember telling myself, say it like, think of Heidi, but maybe you're right. I don't know, but yes, she. We had a really interesting conversation with her in the fall of 2018. This was prior to Laura Lee, and a different kind of thing than Laura Lee, but almost like a precursor to the kinds of psychological, spiritual territory we would get into. Yes, the guest you're referring to, Haythrun, was very into, of course, European religion and spirituality, esoteric aspects of that. So, I mean, it was really, you could have someone like that one week, and someone who was analyzing news one week, and someone who was more of an activist the next week. And then, like you said, people like Aiden Paladin, who might be more coming from a different place. I mean, she was like a PhD student, and I think a little bit more of like the libertarian crowd, very
exactly right.
Very academic and intellectual, but still, had some crossover. And I know Yiz, who should be mentioned as a tremendous activist, someone who's very active and who's been on the show a lot as well, and is part of the story of this show and the history of this show. And I know if she's not able to listen tonight, I know she will be, is someone who knows Aiden and has been connected, because Yiz is such a cross-pollinator.
Yeah.
And has been active in so many chats and spreading, your perspective with Going Free. It's just been amazing. It's been amazing to see the different projects. We talk all the time about School of the West, what Brant has done, what the Nates have done with the outreach teams and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
All these self-starters, the Going Free clubs.
Yeah, really amazing stuff. And Mestizo Carf coming in with two comments, pointing out one that the April Fool's joke, that first one, ended with the April Fool's written across my chest, my bare chest. That's how the close was.
Forgot about that.
Yeah, how I had to take my shirt off because the shirt I had on was itchy, and when I took it off, I had stenciled across my chest April Fools, and some people actually thought that was a tattoo. That was another thing that was hilarious. Like I would have that tattooed across my chest. But anyhow, and then he points out the couch. Quickly typed that into the chat, Jared, as soon as you started talking about, can anybody remember the connection?
So he knows. Okay.
And then we had Highling.
That tells me that he knows.
Yes, we had Highling right two down. Well, no, Promethean Promulgation wrote, Jared walked into the studio, and Highling typed, there was another time when Jared and Jason showed up in the same house.
Because we're brothers.
Because we're brothers, folks. Yes.
You want to
tell them about that?
It was in May of 2021, about a year and a half ago. And lovely Porridge / Runation Media, another gentleman that's been on a lot, he was the guest. And Jason and I had a meeting in person. And so we decided to do a tap from the road. So it starts with Jason on camera. And I think we had the computer set up, so maybe we had a second computer. It was my avatar. I forget exactly, but I wasn't on screen. And Jason was basically saying, we're going live. Give Jared a minute. He's logging in. His computer was having trouble. And you say that for a minute. And then I basically knock on the door. And I'm like, you know what? I just came up from downstairs. Again, referring to that April Fool's prank we described from 2 years prior. I'm just kind of upstairs as if it's an apartment and a building and we live, again, vertical neighbors. And then Jason was sitting on a couch and I sat next to him. Both of us are on camera. And it was the first and only time that we were in the same physical location doing an episode of the After Party. Lovely Porridge was there. He continued to be our guest. And hilarity ensued. I should mention Mr. V. I was mentioning the Nates before. He's involved. Yeah. He's involved in the Going Free clubs. So another person who, I almost don't want to mention people though, because if I mention a few people, I want to mention everybody. So I will say, if for whatever reason, whether it's a guest or someone who is active in the community and doing things, if for some reason you're not mentioned tonight, obviously you have been mentioned and celebrated in the past if you're part of this show, and we love you all. We're just kind of reminiscing here on the fly. If your name didn't come up for some reason, it doesn't reflect anything at all, other than the failure of my own memory. But
I will pose another question about that episode, which was really wonderful because I got to meet Jared in person as opposed to our lives living together as brothers, and we had a fantastic time. But doing that episode, setting up and everything, it was really a heck of a lot of fun. And there was something about that episode that if you all were paying attention, that was not on camera and was not planned, but was hilarious. And so if anybody can get that, they will have serious bragging rights about what was super hilarious associated with that episode, was not intended and was not on the show. It didn't happen on the show. And I will read here Reptile saying, Jason just lives in Jared's attic. So now that rumor will spread. And
this might not be the best rumor to spread.
And Spartan saying, wasn't it? And this, Jared, perhaps you can speak to while we're seeing if anybody can come up with that. Spartan says, wasn't it Millennial Woes who introduced you to?
Well, it was, I don't know if the word introduction is quite right, but you're certainly correct in mentioning Millennial Woes because we became aware of each other by dint of the fact that we both had done Millenniule 2017. And it was both, am I correct in saying this, Jason? It was the first appearance for both of us, right?
Right.
Yeah, so you hadn't been on in 2016. I don't know if you had made any solo videos in the year 2016. I did not. I only started making videos, posting to YouTube in about September, around this time of 2017. So I was fortunate enough where, at the time, it's a big platform and he talked to a lot of different people from a lot of different walks of life. And even though I had only been on a couple months, had caught his attention, I sent him something, and I ended up being on Millennial, sharing I was, a baby at that point. And a lot of people had said, oh, you got to hear No White Guilt's episode. Not to me directly. I was just seeing that there was like a buzz. People were commenting even on other people's Millennial episodes that the No White Guilt episode was good. So I went and checked it out. And I suppose, I don't know what your side of the story is, but I guess you saw my Millennial episode and we both liked what the other guy had to say and got a good energy. And shortly after the new year in January, I DM'd you on Twitter, and that's what began well, I should interview you. I want to read your. I think I'd ordered your book, the first edition of Go Free, and I'd already started reading it. I had some questions for you, and as I said, that's the prologue to TAP. We're still not giving exact dates because we might just have to say it if no one gets it, but what the exact first date of the episode was.
I don't know if anybody's going to get. I think that was the first one that we asked that nobody was able to get. So maybe you can go ahead and give that date.
Well, yeah, just so we're talking about chronology anyway. So yeah, Millennial happens December 2017. We hear each other's episodes, as I said. We start being in contact January. So when all is said and done, the first time that Jason and I were on a stream together was February 21st. 2018.
That's right.
And then it was you said the fourth episode, Jason, when the term the after party came up?
No, that was Rad Russ showed up on the fourth episode. We've asked the question and nobody's answered it yet, when I started the show and used the name The After Party while I was speaking, and nobody has figured that out yet.
I said I had fourth ringing around in my head just because of the Rad Russ thing from earlier. Yeah, it was on some of the early shows with us.
Well,
you're asking when the term the after party was first used. Okay.
Yeah. What episode? What date was that I actually said the after party in the introduction? We'll see if we'll give folks a little bit longer to see if they can figure that one out, and then I'll just share it if nobody can. But we have Franklin coming in with the question about the question about what was funny during that that April Fools when we got together and we were on camera together in physical proximity for the first time.
Right, not the April Fools, the May of 21.
Correct. That's right.
With Porridge as the guest. Okay.
Porridge.
So what was the extra thing?
What was the extra thing? And Franklin said here, didn't they accuse you of being homosexuals? And that's close. It was a single man who saw Jared and I carrying the camera.
Yes. Oh my God.
The lights.
So we're in a hotel, and this guy sees us putting on one of those the carts dollies that you take up to the hotel room, and he sees like lights and camera equipment. And this guy goes, "What's going on in your room?"
He's like
filming adult video.
Yeah, he's like, "You fellas doing some filming?"
That was the exact verbiage. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. He said, "So, you guys doing some filming?" and I was about to be like, "Yeah, but not, of course, tell them exactly what we're doing, but I don't know, say it's like a podcast or political thing." And you, Jason, just didn't want to give it any oxygen whatsoever. And literally, even though there's clearly lights and camera equipment, you're like, "Nope." Nope.
I had to deprive it of oxygen right away.
You were that was the conversational equivalent of just seeing a few leaves start to catch fire, and you just immediately stomped on it. You're like, "This is not going anywhere."
Yep, this conversation's over.
So you guys filming? Yeah, the girls will be here in a few minutes.
Oh, could have said that, yeah, but that wasn't the end of him. That was. Do you remember, Jared?
Well, I'm sure he's still alive somewhere. No,
oh my gosh!
Do we mean we ran into him again?
When Jared and I were leaving, Jared was actually getting together the final things that he was carrying. Our room was near the elevator, and so I was carrying. We're on the way out now. I got the cameras and lights, and Jared's got thing, and so I step up to in front of these elevators. Our door is visible there, and Jared's kind of getting things together coming out the door. And what do you know? This guy walks up and presses the down button on the elevator, and he was like, "How'd the filming go? You fellas want to ride down?" or something like this. And we were like, "We'll get the next one. We'll get no, thank you." Oh my God.
Little does he know he has a small place, a footnote in Tap history.
Tap history. Yep. So Franklin was there. He got it again. Wow, Franklin's got a lot of bragging rights. Oh my God, that was funny. That was the little unknown or lesser known event that took place. Those days. Just of course, God had to have him cross our path again.
Scandalous.
Indeed. Well, we have some financial gifts over here on Cash App. Let's get to them. One of them from the great Naderific, financially gifting $15. God bless you. Thank you, brother. He says here, Mr. George, you will be missed. Thank you for that, Nate.
Yes, thank you. As I said, I feel that already for a long time, the majority of what's being served is done on Jason's shows, but I do appreciate it. And it's not as if it's not bittersweet, even though a lot of time and thought's gone into this. It's still a reality now, and it's meant so much to me. It's been such a huge part of my life. But as I said, it's not where the strength and interest is for me being a commentary. Like, I feel like I've served my purpose there, but obviously what most of the people are on the channel for, Jason is already fully serving that need with everything he does. But I do appreciate that, Nate.
And we also have, folks, get out your August emojis, 07s to salute Big Hair Tsunami, financially gifting and saying everything that was wanted to be said with $50 US. Thank you so very much, Big Hair. $50 US over here on Cash App.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that. And let's see, do we have anybody? I guess we might as well. I haven't seen. I might as well give up the date for when the after party, that verbiage was used in an introduction for the after party.
Can I take a guess? Because I don't even know this.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I don't know which day we did it, but I'm thinking mid-March of 2018. So we'll just go with the odds of March 15th.
I found it. The earliest date I found it was April 4.
I didn't know if it was mid-March or early April. Okay.
Yeah, April 4. We said, and it wasn't like a big announcement or anything. We just, because if you remember, we were already being called. We were already like on Tutar calling it the after party.
Yeah.
We weren't saying it at the beginning of the show until April 4 of 2018. Now we also have the question, and you were speaking to the date about the significance of being on Avatar, and nobody got quite to that yet. So do you want to?
Well, it is your story, unless you want me to say it.
Well, and you're talking about
why you, when you eventually took off the Avatar, you're like, I remember us talking about it. You're like, well, I've used the Avatar for long enough, so I might as well wait for this significant thing to tie it into.
Well, do you remember where I did that first?
Where you did it first?
Yeah.
No, I mean, like I said, this is more relates to you. So why don't you tell it? I think you have all the details.
We were just talking about Millennial Woes, and he had he was the catalyst, essentially. It's how we became aware of each other. Didn't introduce us, and I had not been on video. I'd only ever been Avatar when I live streamed.
On live stream, yeah. Jason did videos on camera. People knew what he looked like on camera, but on the live streams, it was just that avatar, the sunglasses avatar.
That's indeed. And Franklin says JK160 got it. I missed. Let's see. Did he just write it in, or did he write it in earlier and maybe I missed it? I don't know. I don't see it now. To scroll back, but wanted to do this sort of a gift for Woes, and then followed it through to Tap, and which was the sneeze heard round the world. Does anybody remember that? And maybe JK160 did get it. Oh, Franklin said, JK160 said, well, oh, he did. There it is right there. So that was indeed, I sneezed. It caused a glitch in the system, and the camera popped on. And there I was on a live stream on video, because Jared's right. I was making videos of me, but on live stream, I was always an avatar.
But it was tied into an announcement for something as well when we did the first tap after that. And I actually got the chance to interview you in a manner of speaking on a tap episode. You cleverly tied it into the unveiling of another project.
The unveiling of a project. Now that's escaping me.
Well, unless I'm misspeaking here, the way I remember it is, you and I were talking, and you're like, I've been Avatar this whole year since we started, and you've been building up to the release of Born Guilty. So you're like, I'm going to tie into, I'm going to to get as much bang for my buck out of this as possible, to try to get people talking.
That's right.
He's like, when I go on Millennial, I'm going to do this. Obviously, the subject, a lot of what you talked about that year was Born Guilty, because it was just coming out, that huge book that is several books within a book. And then I don't know, I guess it was very soon after your Millennial appearance, we used the next TAP episode for me to kind of interview you, as I was saying, and pick your brain all about the book. And if I remember correctly, it was the first TAP episode, because you had just done that Millennial stunt where you were on camera.
Yeah.
And thereafter you were on camera. But we used it as the celebration, the interview.
That's right.
About Born Guilty as it was being published. It was, going to the presses that December, and people could finally order it on Amazon and other sellers of fine books.
Yes, that's right. And that date. Do you want to try to guess the exact date?
Oh, dude, I don't know. December 8th, December 7th, I don't know.
21st.
Oh, that's right before Christmas. Okay.
Yeah, that was the 21st that happened. And we had a question. Franklin's asking about missing videos. So when it comes to TAP, we've had, over the years, strikes and been unable to stream. And so we've been on other channels. We've lost channels.
Yes, there were times when, say, a month or two worth of episodes, like a whole series of episodes, were on one of Jason's secondary channels because of strikes. So there's, all kinds of things with that too.
Right. And so those were when they deleted those channels. The videos themselves are not lost. I still have them. But when those channels deleted, so there were videos that were lost. And there were also videos, just in case Franklin's asking generally about all videos and any missing videos. Any videos that are not on YouTube anymore are because I had received a strike for an offense that wasn't an offense when I made the video. And so when it's inarguable, you can't, if they're going to apply a rule retroactively, then the only thing you can do is go and take those videos down before you receive more strikes. So those videos are still available on different platforms, but not on YouTube. And they as they tighten, as the anti-whites continue to tighten YouTube over the years, it got to the point that it is today. I mean, it's really ridiculous how you walk through a minefield. And when I say that, it's not because something unethical or immoral would otherwise be shared, but because intellectual honesty is missing in our victimizers. If you were to use a emphatic phrase or a turn of speech that maybe invokes like the whole 9 yards, for example, and the whole 9 yards refers to the weaponry on a battleship, the guns, not the big ones, but smaller ones. And there would be 9 yards of rounds that would be linked together. So they would say, give them the full 9 yards, and the gunner would shoot all 9 yards of that artillery at incoming aircraft. You could say this in the past on YouTube without any worry that someone would at YouTube, some anti-white would say, oh, he's talking about violently gunning down. That's what the 9 yards means. When everybody knows, that's used colloquially in the vernacular to mean a great, just to go beyond, to go to the utmost of whatever it is. And it's never shooting, planes down or people down or whatever. But that is how absurd the anti-whites have become. So it's not a matter of, well, we would be saying things that were unethical or immoral. It is a matter of intellectual honesty is missing on the part of the anti-whites. And so we have to actually go through our language and not use slogans and sayings and emphatic phrases that convey a meaning in context, because they'll take it out of context and give you a strike. So
right. There's a reason Jason's channel has lasted this long. I mean, some detractors try to use that against Jason. We've seen that silliness, like, oh, you must be controlled opposition because you're still on YouTube. It's like, no, it's just we've had a lot of trouble and a lot of censorship and a lot of having our hands tied and temporary inconveniences, which are fine. We knew it comes with the territory, but it was an intelligent maneuvering as well. Like he was just saying, it's, do you want to cross your arms and be stubborn and say I'm not taking this video down and then risk having your whole channel come down, or do you want to take off a few videos and there are those holes there, but at least we're still here, we're still able to do this.
Yeah, precisely. And it's definitely a hard pill to swallow. It's your work, it's your time, it's your effort. Like all of these years, nearly 5 of producing Tap with the great Jared George, and it's a big investment of our time, our emotions, our intellect, and it is charity based in love to put in to bring a message, to put an end to victimization, to make awareness, to learn from others that we could bring on as guests. And we've had a great variety of folks, wonderful people to learn from our audience as well over this time. And it is incessantly at any moment, it's at risk of having it all taken away by anti-whites who would just dust their hands off and go have some disturbing view of some movie or and then have a coffee and would not think another word or another thought about what they had just done to good people, because they weren't as anti-white as they were. And so it's just the world we have to live in, because the reality is we don't white people don't control anything for the benefit of white people. That's just the anti-white narrative. But part of what has made these nearly 5 years of Tap so wonderful is that we have brought a lot of good people together. And it's like JK160 was saying, we really set the mold for what it's like to serve with love in this age, when there are people out there, evil people that have the power, and they will tell the world that your love is hatred, that your love is evil. And we have had the great joy of having a lot of wonderful people come as guests, but also in work with as troll slayers, as mods with us, and show up in the live chats that are of the same mind frame of it, what we focus on, of it being truly a mission of love. And it has been a great nearly 5 years. And we have here to tack on a financial gift, a $25 from Nordic Iron. Thank you, good brother. $25.07 and Ragas emojis just coming in. Says, gents, again, thank you for all of the great moments you have both provided us with throughout the years. It's truly been a pleasure. Tap is now and forever a huge part of our people's story! ! Wow, that is wonderfully written.
Thank you.
A great example of what I was just talking about.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nordic Iron. And we also have a financial gift from Knock, financially gifting $3. And let's see what it says here. Jared, are you able to see the entropy? Or are you able?
No, why? You can't see it.
I just want to know. I will. Are you able to see that? And I will check Odyssey.
Oh. Yes, I see the comment. So who would ask that?
Knock.
So Knock.
The $3, I don't know who Knock is, the $3 financial gift.
Yeah, he was asking if, fair question, if any kind of fear of social repercussions around music and creative projects affected my decision of not doing tap anymore. No, fair question, but answer is no. I started releasing music almost 2 years ago, and there haven't been any, repercussions about that. And no matter what happens from this point forward, I have a history of doing all sorts of things on the internet, and I knew going into it that eventually my music would play a part. Even in late 2017, months before I was aware of Jason, and as I said, I had a very clear mission and had done a lot of soul searching about the kinds of balances I wanted to strike, how I wanted to articulate things, how I wanted to bring my particular brand to helping frame some of the imbalances in the world. And I'd written some things on a website and started doing videos. Other than that, there was also a profound openness, taking it one day at a time, seeing who I'd meet. I didn't know if I'd do a podcast / live stream type thing or not. It could have taken a lot of different directions. It just so happens that in that openness, one of the main fruits that came of that, and me just putting one foot in front of the other, trying things, was meeting Jason and eventually doing the after party, and the after party being a large part of that online presence, and me in that mode of, whatever the best word is, just more of I'm using the word commentator, like social commentator kind of role. But I always knew the music would come back into it. I've always been, even before the music, I've been sharing creative works, certain videos that veered a little more in the creative direction, poetry. So that was always part of it. But it's really been more of a natural progression, as I said, of realizing that long term, just the way my mind works, it's not as suited to always be in commentator mode. I'm more comfortable in the arena of the creative and what that allows you to do, and giving, impressions and implying things. And that's really where I'm most suited, like where I'm tuned into. And so it's more about, as I've said in the beginning, not doing something just for the sake of it, even though I know people enjoy it. And it took a long time. Like I said, it's been over a year. Like there were times when I feel this a little bit, but it's still a fun thing to do. It's not like I'm dragging my feet to do it. And as I said, I was always happy after an episode that I had done another episode. But it's still, even though I leaned into it, I would lean back into it. It eventually got to the point where it was apparent that it just wasn't where the energy was for me anymore. I didn't want to get to the point where it did start to become something where I felt like it was a chore, or it was something I didn't really want to do. I was just phoning it in. It didn't get to that point up until the last episode with Little Apostate. It's still fun and I enjoy interviewing people, don't get me wrong. But it just, you could feel that funnel going more into that direction. And basically that sometimes, like anything, sometimes in romantic relationships, I don't know if some of you have been here, it doesn't necessarily end in people throwing dishes at each other or someone being disloyal. Sometimes you could just tell there's a natural end to something. You just both kind of feel it. Something's naturally ending. So that's really what's been going on. As I said, in combination with knowing that in terms of the energy and someone being a public speaker and a rallying point, that Jason is clearly playing that role 100%, and everyone's in good hands with him doing his show several times a week. We know that nothing's changing in the broader sense. So all of that really is what goes into it. But just to quickly go back to what I was saying a moment ago about things naturally wrapping up a denouement is, I don't know, hopefully this doesn't sound like we're patting ourselves on the back, but one of the things Jason and I did say to each other Monday night on our private phone call in preparation for tonight's public celebration and marking the occasion with all of you right now, is if we were in person, I would say we looked at each other, but we were on the phone. So I can only say we said to each other, but we both felt, this is how it's done. I mean, look at this. How grateful can we be that something like this can come to a natural conclusion with zero misunderstandings, bitterness, bad feelings, nothing of the sort. So if it could also somehow be, some of you, again, I hope I'm not overstepping my bounds or sounding like it's egotistical, but I know, as some of you are clearly expressing, this show has been a big part of your life. It's been a big part of our lives. As I said, it's a two-way street. I've learned and grown just as much as you have. But if it has meant something to you and you've gotten other things out of it, then I will offer this, that this very last episode and how we're doing this and how we're wrapping up, if you could take that as another example in your own life of carrying yourself with dignity, of if you have to one day end a friendship or a romantic partnership or come to the end of a job, and the best way you can interface with the other people involved in that dynamic to be honest, but to treat the other person with dignity and empathy and put yourself in the other person's shoes. And with Jason and I, it's nothing but that. And if the way we're ending this can be an example, then I hope, maybe that can help or inspire people as well.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you're saying there, brother. And we do have a question here. I've dropped you another message, and we do have a couple of questions. 0022 and Bass Guitarist both asking about the after party as a show, and will it return in some different iteration or something of that nature. I haven't made any decision or thought about that much as of yet, but it's not impossible. Bass
Guitarist seems to think that this is just a fake out, and like other bands, well, not that we're a band, but like bands, will come back for a reunion tour.
The reunion tour, no, and then it will just keep going.
No, there's no plans for that. Someone asked about the website, theafterparty.tv, the White Guilt clips. So essentially, just as my feeling is with the shows themselves, and people learning things or being inspired or getting their frames from Jason on his shows, it seems it's best served now to all have it in one place. So, like I said, there are archives we have of the shows, and you could see if some of those will make their way onto the No White Guilt website. But basically, nowhiteguilt.org, as I'm sure it already is for most of you anyway, will really be going forward the point of contact, the website you'd want to visit for everything in this little corner of the universe.
And we have a financial gift from another one of our champions, the great Slots, ladies and gentlemen. Raucous emojis, 07s for Slots. Make him raucous, make him emoji. $40 financial gift from our good brother. And he says everything he wants to say tonight with those $40. God bless you, Slots. We really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Slots, as well.
Jared, do you have any other tales that you want to share, or final thoughts, and because I know everybody's wondering where is Jared going to be showing up when they want to see you and hear from you, and where can they find you, and what exactly are you going to be doing now? And I've seen a number of those comments.
Oh, I see. Well, I'm sure there are other things we could talk about with the show, but we've definitely hit some of the main themes that we wanted to, and particular points in the show's history, just to kind of celebrate and have some fun talking about. In terms of the question, nothing really changes for me. I mean, my site's thegreatorder.com, and it's been focused on the music now for a while, but there's a few extra goodies as well. My poetry is still there. Beautiful Things page, which shows some contemporary art to kind of remind people, varying styles, but mostly visual art, not that I make or I'm associated with, just that I like, just showing that there is stuff being done right now that has form and beauty, and some of what we think about art, not exactly taping a banana to a wall and calling that art kind of thing. So yeah, being a being a recording artist, obviously the music is primary, but there's a bigger thing around it. There's a constellation of things around it, the visuals around it. So all the ways I see the world, or what matters to me, or what I value, are all kind of wrapped up in that. So the music and the associated visuals, or just everything that's shared on that site and social media, it all continues. My social media is on that site, and in my social media bios, like on my Instagram bio and in my Twitter bio, there's a link now. Besides my own website, there's also a link with one of those link tree type things that shows different places you can find my social media, some of the different streaming services or download services for the songs. And there'll be a lot more going on with music. As I said, that's I'm archetypally an artist at the end of the day, and it's just going to be fully operating in that realm of being an artist, a recording artist in particular.
Well, we're going to be keeping an eye on you, obviously, and Jared and I are going to remain good friends and remain in contact. And when he has new songs that he releases, we'll definitely be playing those and highlighting those as always. And I just want to say, before we wrap up tonight, that the past nearly 5 years have been fantastic. Jared has been a marvelous friend. He's a great guy. We have really gotten to know each other over the years, and we dealt with a lot of challenges. I mean, he had a channel taken away without any strikes, without any warning, and I lost one. And the pressure has been on from all sides, and we had troubles that we haven't shared. The typical censorship and the anti-whites doing their sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. We've been through a lot together.
Yep. And so it's been a fantastic partnership, and it is a paradigm for how such partnerships should be conducted for everyone. This is how it should come together. This is how it should reach its climax. This is how it should come to its end. And there's something I shared with Jared when we were on the phone talking about this episode, the finale of TAP, and that was that I had been thinking about TAP coming to an end and life, something obviously much more profound. It begins and comes to an end. A show begins and comes to an end. A relationship can begin and come to an end. And it occurred to me, as it has several times over the course of my life, that to have these moments that we relish, that we enjoy, the laughter, the hardship, the anger, and we've had just about the whole panoply of emotions on TAP, and wonderful interviews, really diving in with folks. To be able to have something like that, for anything to have its beginning, it has to pay a debt. And the debt is that at some point it's going to end. So for anything to have a beginning, it has to have an end in our cosmos. And we pay that end with an IOU to get started. So at some point, all of the laughs, all of the happy tears, all of the sad tears, all of the joy, the guys asking if you're going to be doing some kind of porno video, all of that, it can only happen because this moment.
I hope people have watched
happen.
I hope people have watched the beginning of the show so they know the context of that reference there.
Always take it. They always will take it out of context. That we know for sure. They'll just clip that segment.
Go on, because this is what you're saying is beautiful, and of course I feel and right back at you with every word. But please.
Well, I've just don't want to drag it on and on. But I mean, I am honored. I feel honored to have been able to serve white well-being with you in this context and in others. I mean, there were competitions that you were involved in and helped organize and other things. So I'm honored to have been able to serve with you, brother. I love you, and we'll remain friends forever.
Amen. Everything you just said, of course, I echo. I know we spoke a lot and went back and forth on that kind of sentiment on our private phone call. And you never know how things are going to change you when you step into this. Hopefully you step into something with an intention where your compass is in the right place mentally and emotionally. And then you just hope you do your best to stay anchored in that. Even though circumstances change, there's a core essence of the character, the mark you wanted to leave. And I know that we individually and together kept the spirit of that. And if you can get to that end that you so eloquently just said, so beautifully just said, if you can get to that end knowing that through the twists and the turns of the circumstances and reacting is not the best word. Better word is responding, because responding sounds a little more conscious. So responding to those challenges or those ups and downs and different things that come along the way, it's always an adventure. Anything in life has to have some bit of unknown or it wouldn't make sense, right? But you know that you kept the core there. If you know that you brought that right to the end, which we are doing right now, even the way that we're speaking to each other right now shows that. And for that, how could you not say this is anything but a success and a beautiful thing? I know it's also helped a lot of people, as a lot of people have expressed tonight. It's hard. It's hard for me to wrap my head around that sometimes. That someone writes in and says that it changed their life, and it's in a comment that sounds nice, but really sit down on a chair alone in a room, silent, and try to think about that. It's pretty humbling and awe-inspiring. But I will tell you, my life has been changed. And to the person who asked, and again, fair question, I totally understand it. NoWhiteGuilt.org was asking about if part of my decision had to do with music and repercussions and things like that. No, if anything, all of the different commentary that I did over the years and that had of commentary, whether it's through writing or videos, it made me articulate things in, as I said earlier, this is a very challenging taboo area that we've operated in. And to be able to work out how I square this with other things I believe or my perspective on the world, stay true to all that. And hopefully, my intention was to hopefully be someone who, we all have our different personality types. So I got some feedback that for some people, it helped them to see someone like me, thought a little bit more like them up here. But I don't want to drag this out either. But I want to make sure I'm trying to get a certain point sharpened here, which is I could have had the luxury, especially as an artist, especially as someone, you have to understand, us artists, we like playing in the liminal spaces and the gray areas and the unknown. So I very much was stretching my comfort zone to come out and speak about socio-political aspects in the world that are very challenging and it can be very misunderstood. As we know, it could be, your enemies can turn your words against you. And to really make sure I didn't have the luxury of staying silent in private, but to do this publicly and the responsibility that comes with that, it made me so much sharper in how I articulated that. And that will now carry into a tremendous reservoir I have in confidence in being an artist. So I can be an artist and play in that more imaginal, liminal space in the gray areas, but still have a very strong core of certain perspectives and values that are there that I feel, frankly, are missing in a lot of popular arts. And I think a lot of us here would agree we need to see some seismic changes in popular arts so that, you know, we still acknowledge the full range of human emotion and complexities, but not have a lot of very bizarre, very imbalanced, very poisonous messaging that gets laced into a vast part, the large part of popular media now. So I always sensed that I wanted that. I didn't really know how it would happen. And in this roundabout way of spending a few years, not just with the after party, of course, but the after party became the centerpiece for me of doing that. It changed my life, and the way I approach art and everything, it'll never be the same. So it sculpted me. It was like going through a crucible, to reference something of Jason's.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the deep underneath the iceberg for me. So I hope that makes sense to people. You know, for anyone who cares, I hope it didn't go on too long with like this personal thing. But since it's the last episode and people are going to have questions and ask about it, and I've already intimated this kind of line of thinking, I took some time to explain that. So I hope it makes sense, or anyone that was interested in that aspect of things, it helps shed light. But other than that, it's what Jason just said and what I was saying a moment ago, where if you're gonna end something, this is the way to do it, and nothing but gratitude and love and awe and respect for us bringing it right into the end zone, to the finish line, whatever kind of metaphor you want to use, bringing it to a nice soft landing with all that love. It's ending how it started. We kept the core of what we wanted to do and the energy that we wanted to wrap this all up in, and I couldn't ask for anything more.
Amen. Amen to that, brother. And thank you so very much. We have another final financial gift, it looks like, from the great Slots, coming in with another $10. God bless you, brother. He says, we didn't lose a show. We gained a brother blazing a new path. That's wonderful.
Yeah, that's great. That's
well,
great.
What a great night this has been, just as you were saying, for the finale of the after party with the great Jared George, folks. It's been truly marvelous. Axis Mundi kind of, I think, summing it up for a number of us, saying there's going to be a tap-shaped hole in the internet. And I agree. But we all have these episodes are out there, just like all of the other videos. And I have many of them on the YouTube channel and on other platforms. So you can make sure you catch them there, go through them. You can become a part of the lore as well by learning the ins and outs and the hidden messaging that laced through TAP over these nearly 5 years of episode, over 200 episodes. It's been really remarkable. And I think I'm going to wrap up this TAP as I have just about every other. And so, Jared, I'll just ask you one more time if there's anything that you have to say, one final word as a co-host here on the after party, and then I will give our closing comments.
Well, I think I said a mouthful a moment ago, so I will just say I thank you all, and I love you all my best. And it's not goodbye, it's just a new phase. But thank you and love you to you specifically, Jason, and all of you. Couldn't have been a better way to start, have a whole interesting middle, and now wrap it up.
Amen, brother. Thank you so much for everything over these years. And everyone out there, thank you so much for being here as a very loyal and wonderful community, the TAP community, showing up week after week, even though the anti-whites at YouTube and Twitter and elsewhere were censoring our messages to try to get you to come out our alerts. And we had Jared George coming up with "You Be the Algorithm" and folks sharing as best they could. There were many of you out there. We simply don't have the time, and we would end up missing folks from the community to say this folk or this person and that person from the community did wonderful things. There were so many folks out there, and you know exactly who you are. We know who you are, and we are grateful for you. For your efforts to help TAP to be a success over these nearly 5 years. We are grateful for everyone who commented in the live chat over these nearly 5 years, and who, of course, were here tonight celebrating this finale with us and this liminal phase, as Mr. George would say. Moving on to the next thing, a big debt of gratitude to everybody who financially gifted as well. Those were very meaningful. We know where that comes from, and we know how much it hurts and feels good at the same time when you are a working class person and you give that time in the form of currency to folks who you know are good, who you know are driven by love, and who are doing the right thing to put an end to the victimization of Western kind. And so we love you all of you in the chat, including those, as we have gone through phases in TAP over the years, talking about those who are just wallflowers and they don't want to comment, they just want to watch. And we were fine with that all along. And we were fine all the way up to this point as well, and through it, with your taciturnity, with your silence over these years. And God bless every single one of you. And of course, we cannot forget to mention the troll slayers, the mods, one of the originals, and the sweetest little lady, Dainty Brighton, showing up for this finale. And we wish her the best. And thank you, sister, for showing up. That was one of the biggest highlights for me, was Dainty showing up. So a big thank you to the moderators today and the moderators yesterday over these past years. It is indeed, as Mr. George was pointing out, it's a work of love. It's a work of charity. You're not getting paid. And you have to, you make errors, and you do things right. And you got to deal with people who are sometimes bent out of shape by your understanding of how you apply the rules and to protect the channel, and also convey the kind of community we are to new folks who show up. And that is infinitely important to the work that we're doing, given especially that we are so maligned, so slandered, so misrepresented by folks with seemingly endless resources. So a big debt of gratitude to the moderators and all of their hard work over these years as well. And as always, when it comes to the end of TAP, at least over the past few years, I have been saying, as I recall, that it's been a wonderful show. We're going to be tapping out. We love you all, and we look forward to seeing you